us back on the train.
From Nashville, Tennessee to Richmond, Virginia, and on to the granite state of New Hampshire. That's been the schedule over the last 8 days. Today, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series sees a bit of a break at the end of a tough run. Today, from New Hampshire International Speedway, NASCAR's exciting trucks are next. It is the 18th of 24 races on the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series schedule, going 200 laps, and it's an interesting qualifying order. The north against the south as we go north of the Mason-Dixon line. The front row has a southerner and a northerner. Let's go to Glenn Jarrett.
Well, and starting on the pole is a guy that everybody knows in the Truck Series by 1/1000th of a second. Mike Skinner, fresh off a victory from Richmond. Can you do it again today, buddy?
Well, Glenn, I don't know. You know, this team's been good at winning 2 in a row, but, you know, we're not completely out of this points battle yet, so we've got to race pretty smart. And there's some guys up here in the front that don't have anything to lose in points. Jax, he needs to make a good statement in points. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to try to get out of there with the top 5, Glenn.
Okay, best of luck to Mike Skinner. Starting right behind him, Jack Sprague. Now, he is the guy who, when the Truck Series has been to a 1-mile track, this year he has won every race on a 1-mile track except the first one at Homestead. Jack Sprague, number 24. Watch out for him today. He'll be tough. Here's Matt Yoakum.
Well, Glenn, he may be 1-mile man, but this is another mile man, Joe Bessie. He's won here in the Busch North cars. Hey, a good start for you today. Your first start in the trucks, starting outside, kind of a north versus south thing here. You finished second in the Busch North race. Can you do it in the trucks?
Yeah, I think we can. We got a good piece here. Great to have the sponsorship from Fisher Snowplows, which allowed us to run this race here. Missed the inaugural Busch race here, so I'm glad to be part of the inaugural truck race. And it's just my kind of track. September's been good to me here. We've won here the last 2 years on the Busch North segment. And just looking forward to just taking it easy, getting the feel for these radials. They're quite a bit different than the bias tires that the Busch North cars run. And just going to bide our time until the halfway mark.
Well, he hopes a sandwich between his 2 Busch North wins here in September, a truck win.
And, of course, outside of the front row is Steve Park, who's from Long Island, New York. So, hence, you've got the north and the south, which is certainly appropriate here at New Hampshire International Speedway. Coming up, the start of this 200-lapper, $281,000 plus on the line. We're back in a moment. To roll, and we're set for 200 laps for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Mike Skinner and Steve Park sharing the front row. Skinner off the win at Richmond. Row number 2, Jack Sprague and Joe Bessie, his run here today. Joe Rutman going for Jack Roush, and Bob Keselowski, a great qualifying effort. Brian Refner and the series point leader Ron Hornaday, Nathan Butke, and on down the line, there's Bobby Gill. Good to see him back on the series. Mike Bliss and Dave Rezendes, a winner a couple of races ago. Harry Gant is here, so is Rich Bickle, John Nemechek, and Lance Norick in the 94 truck. Rick Corelli, and you see Boris said he qualified that truck for Ernie Irvan, but Ernie will go to the back of the field, hopping in the 28 machine. Kenny Allen and Bill Sedgwick. Rob Rizzo from Trans Am and Doug George. Bob Brevac and Lebanon, Pennsylvania's Bobby Gerhardt sharing the 13th row as the field now is 2 laps away from going green. Walker Evans and Jeff Spraker for the NASCAR Busch North Series. Kenny Bouchard, great to see him making his debut in a truck. And Mike Hurlburt bringing out the field to its full 30 truck starters. Normally, we would be showing you a number of nice in-truck cameras, but the way those machines work is that the signal is bounced up off a helicopter that hovers overhead the racetrack. But with the ceiling as low as it is, there is the helicopter. Unfortunately, not able to fly and bring you. That's what they would have to be looking through, and the conditions just not warranting to take that kind of a chance. So we'll keep the helicopter on the ground, and we trust you understand why, as we'll bring you the action of this 200 lapper. Let's bring you up to speed on the rules. There will be a competition yellow called at the quarter and the 3/4 mark of the event here today. competition yellows, if you're not familiar, were put in when NASCAR realized that at certain racetracks these trucks just couldn't go the distance at least a halfway on fuel. So somewhere between lap 45 and 55, and again somewhere between lap 145 and 155, the yellow will fly for fuel to come on board. The halftime money from Gatorade will be paid at lap number 100. The halftime break of 5 minutes will go at lap 101. So that is the setup for today's event. If you're just joining us for the first time today, we'll mention again the turns are banked just 12 degrees. The straightaways are flat and 1,500 feet long, as this is the third event of a busy triple-header day here at New Hampshire. Ted Christopher won the Busch North Series race. Tony Hirschman a few moments ago winning the NASCAR Featherlight Modified Tour event. And now Larry McReynolds and Buddy Baker, time to go truck racing.
Yes, it is. And you know, even though we've had 250 laps of racing here at Loudon today, those divisions put a different type of rubber on the racetrack. So what I think these truck drivers has got to do is not make any predetermined calls as to how their truck's handling. Let the track get their type of rubber on it and then see where their trucks are handling.
We've seen McCreary tires, we've seen Hoosiers and Goodyear's of bias ply design. Now we go to the Goodyear Racing radials as we get set to go. Here comes the pace truck. Mike Simons at the wheel from Marion, Virginia. He'll actually pull the car away, actually, not a pace truck today.
Go, 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 go!
And the green is in the air. The exhorting from the pit lane to go, 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 and indeed they do.
Everybody went but Joe Bessie. He dropped back about 5 or 6 truck lengths going down into turn 1. Look at Steve Park take the lead as they come off turn 2.
Steve Park as they scramble. There's Bessie holding up Jimmy Hensley in the 30. Everybody else went by to the inside.
Whoa, Steve Park went in the corner really hard then and washed up the racetrack. It gives Mike Skinner a real good run coming down the front straightaway.
Now the background here is that Steve Park is subbing for Mike McLaughlin, who was to have been in Kurt Rohrig's truck here today, but when the NASCAR Busch Series got rained out Friday in Richmond and they had to run earlier today, that meant McLaughlin couldn't be here, and Park hopped into Kurt Rohrig's truck.
And I'm going to come to Steve Park.
Problems off turn number 2. Kenny Allen in the 65 truck and Kenny Bouchard in the number 1 end up together there off the corner. And here comes Steve Park to the stripe, and we are under caution. Kenny Allen and Kenny Bouchard. So at lap number 2, the yellow flies. Buddy, let's talk about this. And Larry, you add in certainly the same. We have seen Park go from the Busch North car to that ground-pounding modified, now to a bit more of a lumbering kind of truck. How long does it take, do you think, Buddy, for a guy like this, as talented as he is, but still, there's got to be an adjustment period, huh?
It has to be an adjustment, but he has practiced all 3 divisions this weekend, so he has a feel for what he needs to do. As Larry says, the good part is right now, you'll go through a learning curve, but you'll also be getting on the modified rubber that was laid down in the race prior to this. So everybody's kind of guessing right now as to what they need for later on. I think Steve Park right now has one thing in his favor. He's been on the racetrack more than most of the people out there.
Good point. Matt Yoakum, you've been hanging with Steve much of the day today. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, Eli, this morning, if you're wondering why Steve got such a good jump on Mike Skinner, he spent the morning with Ron Hornaday. Ron pulled out a couple of his little Matchbox trucks and showed him how to restart against Mike Skinner. Obviously it worked. He also mentioned that if he's got to restart right behind Mike Skinner, how Skinner's tendencies are to maybe fool you a little bit. But he never quite mentioned what to do if Skinner's behind you. I guess he's going to have to learn that one on his own.
Pit stops for Kenny Allen. There you see the 65 truck being worked on, and Kenny Bouchard is also in. Here's what happened again off the corner.
Looks like Kenny Allen had got sideways, tried to correct it, and it went back the other way on him, and he's sliding down the backstretch up against the outside retaining wall, and he's sitting there, and Kenny Bouchard just has to get on the binder, maybe touch the wall just a little bit with his right side.
So we are getting set to go back to green. The chief starter for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, Chris Morgan from Santa Barbara, California. He is atop the flag stand. As we mentioned, Mike Simons from Marion, Virginia is the pace car driver for this tour. Most instances they do indeed use a pace truck, but here today the pace car. And the green is in the air.
See Joe Rutman now, he started out in 4th spot, has already moved to 3rd. You see him moving on the inside of Skinner as they head down into turn 1.
There's Butch Miller and Mike Bliss, the 98 and the 2, middle of the pack. Jack Sprague getting crowded there. He's in that green and white truck as he gets with Rutman. And there goes Hornaday, the 16 to the outside, says, if you guys are going to play like that, I'm getting out of here.
I'm going to tell you what, Hornaday's brave enough to go bear hunting with a switch. Did you see that move? 3 wide going down into turn 3, and he made the move and moved all the way up to 3rd spot.
He wasn't going to be the one to back off.
No, he's leading the points by 54. Remember that, folks, over Skinner, who is 2nd in points.
Moved up to the high line in the middle of 1 and 2 and then brought it back down to the bottom. Falls in line behind Skinner down the backstretch.
Now this is not Steve Park's first time in a truck. Remember at Watkins Glen he qualified for Joe Nemechek, who was in Bristol for the weekend there and qualified on the push pole.
So he's very familiar with the weight of these trucks and how they work.
We are 6 laps into this 200 lapper. He was also in Indianapolis. Park was. He drove for Walker Evans in that instance.
See Joe Rutman there. He was tagged just a few seconds ago. There's a little bit of contact, but I think his truck's okay. As they go by a lap truck, as they go down in the corner there, you can see Mike Skinner coming off the corner there. He's got good drive, but right now I don't think he's quite as fast as our leader.
There is Rutman having moved around Brian Refner. How about your Winston Cup driver, Ernie Irvan, having to go to the tail end of the field because of the driver change? What kind of a challenge as we watch the scramble now between Refner and Butke for 6th and 7th? How much of a challenge for Ernie Irvan? Is he like that almost?
Oh, I think he enjoys it. And just looking at scoring, he's picked off about 11 positions in 7 laps. So I know he's really enjoying that. And I know he told those guys, he said, look, here's the setup that we won the race with back in July. You put this under this truck, let Boris qualify, and no matter what, don't change that truck. So he come in here cold this morning and looks like he's moving up steadily. And I know he's probably pretty proud of his 44 truck right now because they struggled the other night at Richmond.
And that's for the lead right there. Mike Skinner grabs the spot away from Steve Park. He will take over the lead here at lap number 9. So our first lead change of the afternoon for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Mike Skinner shows the way in New Hampshire. Craftsman Truck Series here at New Hampshire International Speedway. Welcome back, Eli Gold with Larry McReynolds, Buddy Baker, Glenn Jarrett, Matt Yoakum, the entire TNN Motorsports crew here with this big triple header of racing. Skinner is the leader, but the story may be the guy in 2nd spot, Sprague, or potentially Mike Bliss there in the number 2 truck. He and Jimmy Hensley now working in the 9th and 10th positions, respectively. Bliss likes some of these flatter mile tracks, I should say, but certainly no better than Jack Sprague. Sprague, he's in that green and white Quaker State truck right there. He is going for a sweep of the Series 1 mile tracks. He already has wins in Phoenix, a win at Nazareth, Pennsylvania, a win at the Milwaukee Mile in Wisconsin back in July. So he'd like to sweep up that whole package here today.
Eli, what a great break for Steve Park. He's running against 3 of the best in the truck division, and there's some talk that he is going to move into this division for next year. He can sit there and watch what 3 of the best of all times in the trucks, how they run around the racetrack and what they do to really get an advantage.
Steve, this is what, the 4th of 5 events that are being run on tracks where this series has never run. They've yet to go to Las Vegas later in the season. But as far as being on this racetrack in these kind of vehicles and these trucks, nobody has any more experience than anybody else.
That's exactly right. But, you know, and I think that's one reason NASCAR could see justice to schedule Richmond, Virginia on Thursday night and here on Sunday, is because the setup for these trucks, other than maybe a little difference in gearing, is pretty close. You didn't really have to change a whole lot as long as you didn't have a problem at Richmond. There you see Joe Rutman. I believe he's got the fastest truck on the racetrack right now. His truck, he's really able to drive it in deep. It really sticks on the bottom, and he's zooming in on that #1 spot trying to overtake Skinner.
Winless this year, I'm sure that Joe Rutman would certainly like to put this Roush truck right in the winner's circle.
There you see how he has advanced through what is now 17 laps. Outside Rutman, outside Sprague. It happens that quickly in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Skinner goes from first, potentially, to third or fourth off the corner.
He's got a problem. He's not running down the straightaway at the moment.
They'll give Joe Rutman the lead now here at lap number 18.
Skinner's definitely off the pace.
Skinner's got a problem. Glenn, what are they saying down there?
Saw some smoke come out of the left side exhaust switch. Do you have a problem?
Yeah, right now he said the motor isn't acting right, so we're not sure what it is right now. We'll just have to see if we can finish.
All right, so he's definitely got a problem. As he went by the lap 2 laps ago, just as he passed the start-finish line about halfway down to turn 1, big cloud of smoke came out of that truck.
There goes Hornaday bypassing him. Now remember, Skinner was 54 points down, and there you saw the puff of smoke again. Skinner's win on Thursday at Richmond did clinch the manufacturer's championship for Chevrolet trucks. But he's looking at the big picture right now, and there's another puff of smoke. He may not like the picture he's seeing here this afternoon. 19 of 200 laps are in the books. Joe Rutman, having taken the lead from Steve Park, and Mike Skinner now leads here in New Hampshire. At New Hampshire International Speedway, Joe Rutman showing the way in his Jack Roush truck. There's Ernie Irvan. He's up to 15th spot now, Larry Mack.
Yeah, his truck's definitely working good. I was watching it a while ago. It's working right on the bottom. Seems to be working about like we had the Winston Cup car working in July. He's hanging right against that yellow line. Biggest thing, I told him last night, you just got to show patience. You got 200 laps to get to the front, and you're going to have a good truck, and you're going to have to bide your time and pass. Don't push the envelope too hard.
How much input do you have on these trucks? Even though the trucks, in the case of Ruffner and Ernie in particular, don't come from Robert Yates Racing. Obviously, you care about the man. Do you have any involvement, hands-on or otherwise?
Not really, but you know, again, I keep stressing the word team. And, you know, Ernie's got some good people working on his truck. You know, he's got Jay Smith, the crew chief, and a lot of good guys working over there. Brian Reffner's a hands-on mechanic on the truck. But, you know, any way we can help Ernie's truck team, Dale Jarrett's Bush team, that's just part of complementing the whole package of the Dale Jarrett, Ernie Irvan, Robert Yates cluster. And anything we can do to help them, and likewise they do the same for us.
There is Ernie challenging Butch Miller right now in 13th spot. Glenn, why don't you join this conversation, because you're in a racing family in a situation.
Well, I just got a question for Larry. Now, we've already heard his comment a while ago about how well Ernie listened. Does he really listen to you when you tell him stuff like that?
Well, I don't think so. He don't look like he's showing a lot of patience right now.
He's closed in on Joe Bessie, Ernie Irvan has, moving up to the 12th spot.
You see, just in front of these two trucks there, that's Harry Gant, who had a good chance of winning the race not long ago up in Nashville. And Harry's really loving what he's doing right now. I said, "Are you going to do this again next year?" He said, "You bet. It's the most fun I've ever had in a race."
A series of unscheduled.
You're not going to make me say it today.
There you go. A series of unscheduled stops for Lance Norrick. His truck back on the pit lane again. There you see a quick look at his entry, fielded by his dad, who is the mayor of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Eli, while we was at break, the Jeff Spraker truck hit pit road. They raised the hood and pushed it into the garage area, so they is done for that truck.
And there's Mike Skinner, who has really slowed significantly now. Had an engine problem, he reported to the crew. We heard from Will Lind a short while ago. And you see he's, what, 6 miles an hour? Well, more than that. What am I saying? 26 miles an hour off the pace of a few moments ago.
Larry, I'd say that valve has probably made as many tours through that chamber as it can make right now. It's probably visited every piston in that engine as he starts down the front straightaway. He's down to a crawl. It won't be long before they call him in.
Exactly.
Skinner, 6 wins, 3 poles, 14 top 5s and 14 top 10s. That is in 17 races. Significant, but it's not going to last apparently today. But there's a man who is looking for his first victory of the year, Joe Rutman, in the Roush Performance Products Ford truck, leading here in New Hampshire. National Speedway, Mike Skinner has brought his truck to the attention of the crew, and it sounded real sick, Glenn Jarrett, when it came down the pit lane. That's not a pretty sound.
You may not be able to hear me, Eli, for the noise that the truck's making. They've tried switching ignitions. They're working under the hood, but this is a terminal situation. He was running the truck as fast as he can run it. It's just really sick. He's not going to be able to last much longer. In fact, NASCAR won't let him stay out there much longer at the rate he's running.
I got a weed eater to sound just exactly like that at home, and I imagine my weed eater's got about as much power as that 3 truck does right at the moment.
That's too bad.
The thing about it, it didn't look like they could do anything to correct the problem. And the sick feeling, you look up on that scoreboard and there's 165 laps to go, and you know it's not going to make it. Probably not even going to be able to run up to speed to NASCAR specifications.
There's Ernie Irvan in the 28 truck, making a move inside of Nathan Butke. That's up to 8th place right now for Ernie Irvan. Again, if you're not familiar, Ernie, of course, in Richmond yesterday, winning the NASCAR Winston Cup race. His truck was qualified by Boris Said III, the team manager there. And then when Ernie came in late last night, early this morning, when did you guys get here, Larry?
We laid down at 3:30. I set my alarm for 5:30, and I said, why bother?
But that's why Ernie had to go to the back of the field as he took over the driving chores from Boris Said III. And there is Ernie Irvan in the 1-800-COLLECT truck.
Well, it's good that Ernie's listened to everything you told him about not running too hard right at first. He's all the way up to 8th place now, and I mean, he must be a half a second quicker than any truck on the field right now. If they were to have a caution, he would be right in the thick of things, I believe.
You know, Eli, buddy, this is the same tire that we run here on the Winston Cup cars in July, and it was an awesome tire that Goodyear brought here. We run our left sides almost 200 laps. Now, the variable is a little bit different surface, especially in the upper groove of the corners. Don't know that that's going to play a role in it, but Ernie has a good feel for this tire as well as for the setup for this racetrack.
And, of course, that was a race that Ernie Irvan won, as you saw right here on TNN Motorsports. There he is moving in on Mike Bliss now in the number 2 truck. No change up front, if you're curious. Joe Rutman, for the time being, is pulled away by 10 truck lengths on Jack Sprague, so you're missing nothing of the battle for the lead. Honestly, there isn't one right now. So we're watching Ernie Irvan make his way closer to the front, closing on Bliss.
You know, as good as Ernie's running right now, track position is so important here. Although he's moving up through the field, he's almost a half a lap back of the leader right now.
That's the thing, you know, every time he has to contend with some traffic, Rutman out there in clear sailing, he's just putting more distance on Ernie and these guys, and Ernie's just going to have to take them one at a time. As he moves around Bliss there on the outside, coming through 3 and 4, that should move him up to 6th position.
The full field standing, you see, being brought to you by the original vent visor, the most practical accessory for your truck. You know something? 53 weeks from now, we're going to be back here. This is going to be the time span for the second NASCAR Winston Cup visit to New Hampshire, mid-September of '97. I wonder if Ernie and you, I bet you there's going to be some notes learned from today as to what kind of differences there are between July and September at this racetrack, because we'll be here for a Winston Cup event this date a year from now.
I'm sure we'll learn a lot from it. Again, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, the little bit different surface in the corners, he'll learn for a feel for that, but it looks like the setup for this truck that we used in July is working good here today. But we're looking forward to coming here twice to Loudon next year. It's an awesome facility. The Bears has done a great job.
Eli, the one thing we have to tell the fans is, even though Ernie and those guys are back a half a lap right now, they're going to have some yellows here in a little while, competition yellows, to bring these trucks in. Whoa, that got burned right there. Yeah, it did. No more perfect. I was 4 in a row without saying it. $1. Anyway, what I'm saying is they'll have a competition yelling that'll bring everybody right up together again, and they'll be yeah, they're shooting at me up here, guys.
Joe Rutman is the leader over Jack Sprague, who runs in the second spot. We are within 3 laps of opening that window for the competition cautions. We'll talk about them in a moment. Today's exclusive TNN coverage of the Pennzoil VIP Discount Auto Centers triple header is brought to you by the new Dodge. We're thinking ahead. And by the original vent visor, the most practical accessory for your truck. Welcome back, everybody. The lead battle has tightened up as Joe Rutman has been caught by Jack Sprague. The reason in part is because that truck, the 44 of Brian Refner, spun moments ago, and some were expecting a caution. Here's what happened after Ernie Irvan had just passed him.
Refner, it's the 44 there. You see the back of the truck start out as he turns, come off turn 2 there. Man, he's along for the ride, but what's his great catch here? He learned that somewhere besides here, I can promise you.
If you'll notice, the tires never quit spinning, so hopefully, probably he did not flat sput those tires.
All the while, Ernie Irvan has moved up to the 4th spot. You've got Joe Rutman, the leader. Jack Sprague is 2nd. Steve Park is still in 3rd. Then Irvan, Hornaday, Bliss, Jimmy Hensley, Butch Miller, Nathan Butke, and Refner. And then Harry Gant. You saw Harry in his truck there, the number 33. And here's a good scramble as they go around Kenny Bouchard. But no chance for Sprague to make a pass.
Well, Jack's been working, trying to catch back up to Rutman, and you can see he's right on his tailgate now.
I would say any lap now we're going to see this competition yellow, and when this comes out somewhere between 45 and 55, and we're working on lap 50 right now, the trucks can pit, make normal pit stop changes, can add fuel, but no tires at all can be added. So just normal changes and some fuel, and they'll go back to racing to the halfway point.
And caution is out now. The competition yellow has just been shown by chief starter Chris Morgan. It comes out at lap number 50. Let's mention those of you who might be tuning in right now to see Bill Jordan's Real Tree Outdoors. Due to the length of our triple header here at New Hampshire today, Bill Jordan's Real Tree Outdoors will be seen at 8 o'clock Eastern time this evening. So if you're looking for Bill Jordan, he'll be along later on. Stick around and stay with us now, as we've still got 3/4 of this race yet to go. Competition caution.
Who do you think wanted to see this the most?
Ernie Irvan.
All right, you win. Right answer.
Yeah, Ernie's been awfully strong here today, starting at the back of the vehicle. It's funny, Larry came in this morning, we ought to tell you, at the production meeting. He said, I think Ernie's going to miss the drivers meeting because they got in so late. And he said he'll probably just snooze right through it. But heck, he's going to have to start at the back anyway, so why not? There's Jack Sprague in for service from his crew. If you're new to the series, as Dennis Conner goes to work on that truck, if you're new to the series, you don't have to really hustle during this pit stop. You will come back out onto the racetrack in exactly the same position that you came down pit road, unless you happen to go a full lap down. But if you come down the pit lane in 2nd, you take extra time, you go out in 9th, you'll still line up in 2nd place.
The great part, look how many people are working on this truck as it sits in the pits here. You don't have to bring 15 and 20 crew members to pit these trucks, and when they're in an event like this, you can bring 4 or 5 good people here and do all the work, and it really cuts down on expense.
It really does, and I think that's one of the great thing about the truck series is it does give these guys a chance to adjust the trucks if they're not quite on track with the setup, and again, cuts down on expenses. They don't have to bring the hot rod tire changers and the jack men, and really helps the owners of these trucks.
So we are under this competition caution. It is the 2nd yellow flag period of the afternoon. We come back with Joe Rutman, the leader at New Hampshire, right after this. Green, that is George Miller, father of our producer, Pam Miller. We've shown Tim DeRoyne, our cameraman, driving his modified earlier, and got to show the producer's dad working on Doug George's crew here today. Green is in the air, and Joe Rutman leads